episode 15 of season 3, This Sorrowful Life. So at the beginning of this, Rick is talking to Herschel and Daryl, and he's talking about how, like, they have to give up Michonne, and the governor will leave them alone, and, Herschel and Daryl are not really going for it. Like, they're not on board with this, and Daryl's like, this isn't who we are, Rick. and, but Rick's like, we gotta, like, to save the rest of us, we have to do this. And so they decide to get Merle on board. And so Rick goes and tells Merle, and Merle's like, he's digging in a mattress looking for drugs because he's like, the best Coke I ever had,
Dope.
right? Dope?
But yeah,
oh, okay. Yeah. Was in a mattress, and he's like using his like knife hand to like cut it open. And so Rick tells him what he has to do, and Merle like kind of judges him. He's like, "You're not such a good guy, are you?" And he tells him, like, when the governor gets her, like, he's not gonna kill her. He's gonna rape her. He's gonna torture her. He's probably gonna scoop at least one of her eyes out.
Yeah.
So we can do this. We should tie her up with wire.
Yeah,
wire.
So she can't chew through
it. And so, before, like, Merle doesn't really tell anyone, he just takes Michonne and starts taking her to Woodbury. Because, like, the rest of the group, like, not the rest of the group, because not everyone knows it, but, like, Herschel and Daryl and Rick, they kind of are having second thoughts about giving him Michonne, but by the time that, like, they realize that, like, by the time they, like, come to that conclusion, they realize that Merle has already taken her.
Yes. Yeah, so then Merle takes her down the road. Doesn't really seem like they're moving all that quickly. So, like, depending on how much time has passed, it seems like they could have potentially caught up with them.
It does, yeah.
But let's see. So then, eventually they find a car, like, in a driveway.
Because they were walking before.
Right, yeah. So they were walking, and Merle's like, okay, I'll grab this car. So then he, like, opens it up, and he triggers the alarm. Which, I mean, this car it's been clearly just sitting in somebody's driveway, not used since the apocalypse began. But it's in perfect working order, and the battery isn't dead yet. The alarm is triggered and starts attracting walkers, and I have to object to the way vehicles are always just conveniently in perfect working order when they need to be in this world.
Yeah.
Because that's a bit silly. It's been a year by now.
Yeah.
So then the alarm starts attracting walkers, and Merle's trying to hotwire the car, or like shut off the alarm at least. And and then Michonne's just like, she like uses the wire. Yeah, she's tied up, so she like uses the wire that she's bound in to like kill some walkers. Like, she like one of them, she manages to get its head off by like wrapping it around a pole and like severing its head with the wire, which that should not be so easy. That's a bit silly.
Yeah.
She just manages to pop its head off. Like, I don't believe that.
Just continuing the inconsistencies. Like, I guess they're like consistently inconsistent.
Yeah. And then he's like, Merle, like, gets the alarm off, and he's like, I thought you would have run. And she says, I wanted to get my sword back before I did. And so then they, like, take off in the car. Let's see. And then I'm trying to remember what happened back at the prison.
So back at the prison, we see Glenn, like, up at the fence, like, attracting a female walker.
Oh, that's right. Then, like, yeah.
He, like, breaks off a couple of her fingers. And what he does with it is that, like, he must... I mean, I hope he cleaned the ring.
Oh, yeah, hopefully. I mean, yeah.
The walker was wearing a wedding ring, and he takes the ring, and he, like, I guess proposes to Maggie, but...
Well, it's... Okay, I mean, first of all, I think it's wow, that's one hell of a like good fortune for
Right.
Glenn that like, oh, there's a, because later when we see it, it's like a nice ring.
It's a nice
with like a
ring,
big diamond
yeah.
on it, and it's
The
like,
one, like, the walker still had it on.
yeah, it's
It
like,
didn't
wow,
get
this
damaged.
is uh-huh.
It's the right size.
It looks
Like,
polished.
it looks
I mean,
polished.
yeah, that's also, yeah, it's also the right size. Like, she can wear it comfortably. Like, that's a good, yeah. And I mean, no, it's just like there just happened to be a walker there at the fence,
Yeah.
who like whose wedding ring fit all these criteria
Right.
that he needed. Yeah, like right at that exact moment. That is, yeah, that's quite good fortune for Glenn.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so then like before he proposes, he asks Herschel for his blessing to ask Maggie to marry him, and Herschel gives it. And then yeah, and then he essentially proposes to Maggie.
Except according to WikiHow, it's like,
Right, or the Walking Dead.
oh yeah, not
no, that's okay.
how do you get Walker's
Yeah,
fingers off
how do
to,
you-
to get the right size ring?
Yes, that'd be an interesting article. We could write that.
The Walking Dead wiki.
Yeah, it says, yeah, it claims that they're married now. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, okay, I mean,
Which, like, in this world, like,
Right.
there's not going to be any legality, like, or anything like that. Like, they can just say they're married, but, like, it was
like
just,
they
like,
should have just considered each other married already.
right.
You know, and at this point, yeah, like they didn't have any kind of, like they didn't have like, let's see, who would have, I guess Herschel, but like if there was, who else would have been the natural choice to like marry them?
I mean, maybe Rick, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that, like, they should have, like, when Woodbury is, like, emptied later, they could have, like, gone and had, like, a ceremony there.
Mhm.
Like, that would have been a nice change of pace for them. Like,
Yeah.
they don't get to celebrate many things or many big things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just, like, instantly married. They're like, okay, we're married.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see. That's the subplot back at the prison.
So, in the car, Merle and Michonne are in there, and she starts talking to him about, like, his life and how many people he's killed, and it's been 16, and she asks if that was, like, before, like, if any of those were before the governor, and or if, like, the governor made him do it. And he doesn't say anything, so that basically tells her, like, the governor made her do it and made him do it, and that the governor's a terrible person. And it's just, like, confirming these thoughts in Merle's head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he decides to let Michonne go.
Yeah.
And he doesn't tell anyone his plan, but he comes up with the plan because he wants to kill the governor.
Yeah. And save Daryl.
Right,
Yeah.
and save Daryl. And so he, like, is blasting the radio on this car, and he, like, rolls the car into,
Well, okay, so he gets, I don't know if is this the same car that it must have been. Yeah,
That
it must
they
same car.
hired, yeah.
So like, which I find it interesting that like apparently this car had the sort of music that Merle likes.
right. It also had enough gas. Like, we've
Yeah.
already discussed how gas would be expired by now, but...
I guess, wait, did it also, or did he hit up a liquor store? Because he's drinking liquor while
You're
attracting,
right.
like, did it also just happen to have a bottle of whiskey, like, in this, like, was he just, like, score, this car has, like, all of the things I like, this is quite a good fortune for me,
what a fortuitous
too.
day for all
like,
of them.
wow, yeah, Glenn got great luck, like, Merle got great luck, I mean, until he died.
Right,
but, like,
right. Like,
like
his luck is
finding
not
things that they
lasting.
want. Yeah, like, yeah. I didn't think about how it
didn't
also
either.
had the booze in
alcohol,
there. You
yeah.
know, unless he hit up a liquor store, but
We didn't see that, I don't think.
no, because yeah, he's just like, so anyway, he's like attracting walkers. I mean, they show him going faster later, but like at first he's going
He's going
absurdly
very,
slow. He's like going
very
like
sl- he-
4 feet
And then
stopping completely, like, you know, so like let the walkers catch up, but like there's no need for him to be there's no need to be for him to be going this slow,
right?
And B, like, depending on how far he's going, this is going to take forever. Like, he might run out of gas going that slowly,
right?
Like before he gets to the feed store, which is where the governor's waiting to receive Michonne, like. Yeah, and then like once he's closer, like he seems to be moving at a more reasonable pace.
Yes.
So like maybe that was just at first
to get them started.
But anyway, so he's like attracting walkers and getting them to trail his car, and then he drives up to the. What were you gonna say before?
Oh, I was gonna say like he like puts the cruise control on as he's like driving up to the feed store.
He gets up to the feed store,
and he like rolls out and like runs into one of the like. A shack is what it looks
whatever these adjacent buildings are. Yeah.
And so like all the governor's guards are like, what the hell is that sound?
Yeah.
What is that? And so they go to like
I feel like they should be like, oh, this is a trap, abort.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like if I was the governor, I'd be like, nope, you know.
Yeah,
like okay,
like,
this is clearly like Rick or
walkers.
Whoever is like trying to spring a trap.
Right.
Like this is, you know, like we need to
clueless.
disengage. Yeah. No, I agree. They're like walkers, and then they're just shooting them, you know. Yeah.
And so Merle's like he's kind of hidden in this shack, and he has a nice weapon, and he's shooting them also.
He's taking advantage of their gunshots to mask his gunshots, so they don't realize they're being shot at until,
which is pretty smart.
Oh yeah, no, this is a very good plan, and he comes very, very close to killing the governor. Like he would have succeeded in this plan,
except
Ben, who's like Alan is the guy who was with Tyrese, who felt cuckolded by Tyrese. You know, and so then, like, he's, like, with the governor, and then, like, Ben, his son, is also there, and so then, like, Ben just happens to get in the path of Merle's bullet. That's heading for the governor.
Second.
And it kills Ben. And I think it's at that point that the governor's like, oh, we're under attack from someone else.
Right.
And so then they kind of, like, figure out where Merle is kind of... Oh, no, actually, like, also Merle has bad luck. Maybe it's, like, karmic balance, like, balancing out for him finding the loaded car. Like, because, like, the stealth walker just happens to attack him.
Oh my gosh,
like,
you're right.
Because, like, they might not even have realized where Merle was, like, unless the stealth walker just happened to get him.
That doesn't... Honestly, that makes no sense, because, like, there's all this gunfire, there's all these people.
Right.
He's in a shack, like...
Presumably close the door.
Supposedly close the door. Like, this walker has to, like, push the door open to find him when, like,
it's very bad luck.
There's so much other, like, noise and blood and everything going on. They're like, that really, truly should have attracted all of them. Like, this stealth walker should not have been there at all.
But, like, I guess that's how because then he neutralizes that walker, but I guess they zero in on Merle's location because of that. Yeah.
And a couple of the guards go and, like, beat him up.
Yeah.
And then the governor's like, no, he's mine. And, like, takes Merle.
Like, they fight, they fight, and, like, the governor overpowers Merle and, like, breaks his arm? Or he beats him and, like, bites off 2 of his fingers?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if that was done to intentionally mirror, like, the Glenn cutting. Whoever was writing this or directing this had, like, a thing for, like, cutting off, like, 2 of the fingers. Yeah. It might have been the same fingers, like the ring and pinky, but... Yeah, and so then, like, the governor bites off 2 of his fingers, and something interesting was that, like, on the wiki it says that under trivia, it notes that the actors who played Merle and the governor had a lot of input into how this, like, final scene with them played out, and how Merle's actor, insisted that Merle get the crap beaten out of him by the Woodbury soldiers before he gets into it with the governor, because he felt that Merle, if he wasn't weakened beforehand, he should have been able to take on, defeat the governor in a one-on-one fight, which I think is reasonable.
Yes,
yeah, I do think he would have.
Even with the shit beaten out of him, I still think that Merle should have been able to win, because his hand is a fucking,
I agree.
Knife.
I don't feel like there was a great, I don't feel like they choreographed it in a way that explained why he couldn't stab the
Yeah.
governor at any point pretty easily, or like slash him.
Right,
Like
right.
I feel like
at least,
he,
or at least damage him, hurt him, like surprise
like, and they
him,
could have,
something like
they
that.
could have shown that where like his hand gets stuck in something, or like, you know,
And that
like
would've
he
made
tries to
sense.
stab the governor, but he misses. The
misses.
governor ducks, and then Merle's knife, his bayonet gets. I guess it's actually just because it was a bayonet when he was in Woodbury, but then afterwards they take it from him.
Oh, that's
and then he like replaces it with a shiv at the prison and duct
Okay.
tape. But like but anyway, like they like his
Or like
blade
it falls out.
could have been
or...
gotten stuck in something. It could have been like shattered off, like so, you know, but like it is kind of just like for whatever reason he doesn't really take advantage of it.
But I do think that's really cool that the actors had input and he got to say like, well, they have to beat Merle up first, or else like he will be able to overpower, which is totally true.
I think so. It's like in the hierarchy of like who would win in a one-on-one fight. As we see later, the governor beats Rick in a one-on-one fight, but Merle beats the governor in a one-on-one fight. That's like the food chain of like. In a one-on-one, like, all things being equal fight. Yeah.
So, Merle knows that he's going to lose. Like, he knows that the governor's going to kill him. And he says, I ain't gonna beg. I ain't begging you.
Yeah, which is a callback to what he said when he was chained to the rooftop in the first season. And he was, like, hallucinating from sunburn and, like, heat exhaustion and exposure. And he was like, he kind of started talking to God, Merle, and he ended up saying like, I ain't gonna beg, I ain't begging you, you know, like for his life.
Right.
And I thought it was very interesting because also noted under trivia, it says that like that wasn't, that their final words to each other, Merle's line, and then the governor saying no in response to that. Wasn't originally scripted,
right?
Which I thought was very interesting because like that seems like it was very like deliberate.
And
I just assumed that was I just assumed that was like a very deliberate, you know, reference to that, and you know all of it was
And Merle's actor also says that like he wasn't saying that to the governor.
Yeah,
he was
that was also
very.
He was
God.
saying it was just saying it to God again just like before.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting. Yeah. I didn't realize that. Yeah,
and that first episode he said it in season 1 is called "Tell It to the Frogs."
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Rick sees Michonne walking back up on the prison, and like they go down and like get her in the gate, and she's like, Merle, let me go. And so I guess that like none of them had gone to the trade because they're like, oh, Merle has Michonne, like we're never gonna get there in time.
Yeah.
So then they're like, oh wait, like I guess it's just Merle at the trade. So Daryl goes, and I think it's kind of strange that it's just Daryl. Like, in reality, it should have been Glenn and Rick also.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like, okay,
you don't know what you're walking into.
Right, like you guys don't care enough about Daryl to go with him.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So just Daryl goes to like see what's going on to try to find Merle, and it's just a total bloodbath, and there's like a bunch of dead bodies, and then walkers that are eating them, and a lot of them are like the walkers, like the people that Daryl killed, like.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. That's
like
okay.
Ben.
Yeah. Right.
Ben is a walker and he's eating a body, and I just have to note that like the only way that this logically makes sense that the people that they are eating are people that got shot in the head.
In the head, yes.
They must because they couldn't turn to a walker because walkers do not eat walkers.
It's true.
So these people, I mean, wasn't Ben shot in the head?
I think he was shot in the chest. I'm not sure. I think the bullet caught him in the chest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, like, the people that the walkers are feasting on have to be completely dead. They couldn't have been, like...
It's a bit, like, convenient for, like, this, you know, because it's, like... There's like an equal ratio of walkers and people they're feeding on,
which also doesn't make sense because Merle like lured so many walkers into this area.
I totally agree.
Many guards.
Like they should have.
I think there were 7 guards. Yeah.
I mean 7 that he killed.
There were like
maybe like 10 or 12.
But I mean, even if he killed all of them and shot them in the head, that would only be 7 bodies on the ground.
Oh, no, and, like, and the walkers should have...
devoured them.
Yes, exactly. Oh, no, it's one of those things where it's, like, they're so inconsistent about... Like, the walkers are so inconsistent about how much they want to eat, how long they want to hang around, like, eating, like... Is it like, okay, you've got this one, fellow walker. I'm gonna go like look for my own food over
just
here.
Like the one
Good
that,
job,
that
you know. And then
Dale.
they just like they have such
say,
etiquette.
Like just like the one that killed Dale. He just ate like half the cow, and then but he stays there.
He's like, nah, I'm good. And then he's just like, but no, their eating preferences are really fascinating.
Very inconsistent.
Like, yeah.
Like if this was a real thing, I would totally be interested in studying that and like watching
yes,
them
it would be. It would be intriguing.
Really,
yeah, it's like, do different walkers have different eating preferences, or does it matter like based on how many other walkers there are around, or like, I mean, were they like? Did the Woodbury soldiers, like, after they retreated, like, keep shooting at them, and so they were distracted by the gunfire and, like, started wandering after them? Like, I mean, you know, who knows? But it would be quite intriguing if it were a real-life situation. It would be a fascinating area of study.
And then the very, very sad part
it's very
is...
sad.
It breaks my heart. Like, Daryl... finds Merle as a walker because the governor just like
shot him like in the chest or the stomach.
He didn't shoot him in the head. And Merle's eating someone, and he looks up and sees Daryl and like gets up and walks towards him and fantastically just like steps over this body. He didn't like stumble or anything. And starts going towards Daryl, and Daryl's crying because he knows he has to put his brother down. It's a very, very dramatic shot when he like shoots him in the head and like Merle like flies back.
Oh, I mean, he actually like he just pushes him back a couple times, and then he ends up stabbing him. Is that what you meant? Like when he stabs him? I don't know.
I'm like totally seeing his body like kind of fly. I must be confusing it.
Not Sophia, right? Not when Rick shoots, and like because I think her body like I think she kind of dramatically falls back.
I think I am confusing with Sophia. That's so weird.
Oh, that's okay. It's kind of a similar, you know,
like
a vaguely similar scene. Yeah. But yeah, so like Daryl's like pushing him back every time Merle comes up to him trying to eat him, and then eventually he works up to it, and then he stabs him in the head over and over with a knife.
You're right.
Yeah, and then he's just like Daryl's like completely despondent over that, and
so that kind of ends.
Yeah, was there a scene after that?
I don't think so.
Okay,
no. Well, they're back at the prison.
Oh, you're right, and Rick, yeah,
right.
Okay,
Rick's talking.
You're right.
I was just meaning like for that.
Oh, sure,
arc.
But that does. So something I thought was quite interesting that I read was apparently, Merle was not like they did not originally intend to kill Merle off at this point, and that was kind of a last minute like
he was gonna be like a reoccurring character,
which I thought was fascinating. I mean, like I did not, because it seemed like I just always assumed that they intended this to be his arc for like essentially for season 3,
right?
And like, you know, he would like redeem himself, and that would be, because it feels very natural. It doesn't like, unlike some characters, it doesn't like feel like they just abruptly killed him off out of nowhere. This feels like an organic character story. Like this feels like it was intentional.
Right.
You know, it feels like the whole thing was leading up to that. Which I found interesting. And so I mean, it would have been kind of like, he's a good character. He's very entertaining. It would have been nice if he had stuck around, but at the same time I feel like this is a good conclusion. Like I feel like it's a good character arc, and it feels well done. It feels satisfying. Like it's very sad that he dies.
Yeah, and that's a very like touching scene between him and Daryl. And I'm very curious as to like how much the episode changed from like the original, like was he still gonna drive into the feed store, like distracting them, and then like run away?
Right, or would he have been captured by the governor or something, and then like broken out? You know,
but
no, it's
because there's no way that he was actually going to kill the governor. Just like
that would have been like completely. Like, that would have been a
Right.
real shocking
Right,
plot
right,
twist.
right.
Yeah.
Like the entire, basically all half of next
Right,
season
right.
changes. Like, so I'm curious as to how the show was originally going to go before they made that change. It also didn't say anything about why they made the change.
Yeah. I strongly suspect that it was because the actor who played Merle was cast in Guardians of the Galaxy, which was
So-
like would have started filming
Right.
around the time that this episode was like being finished slash when it was aired.
Right,
Like, that
because-
would have fit chronologically very well.
Because Guardians of the Galaxy came out like a year and a month.
Pretty much,
after
yeah.
this
And so, like, they would have
episode.
been filming it
It would
during
have
that
been-
time.
yeah.
It would have, like, that would have made a lot of sense. And I remember suspecting that when I watched The Walking Dead originally.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and Guardians of the Galaxy, but, like, because I was like, oh, hey, it's Merle from The Walking Dead. And it was like, oh, like,
That's why he
like,
left
this
The
was
Walking
right
Dead.
after, like, oh, I wonder
Yeah.
if this is why they killed him off. Like, I wonder if this is why he left
Hmm.
the show, because he was like, he was going to be in this movie and potentially other movies. You know
Right.
how TV actors often do that. I just always suspected that was the case, and it doesn't say for certain anywhere, but I still think that's overwhelmingly the likely possibility.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating because that actor was in quite a few things. Like, I've seen him in quite a few things before The Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy, but these were like where he made it big.
Yeah,
he
started
was one of
becoming
those
a more
actors who
well-known name.
who like worked for a long time before gaining like real notoriety.
Well, that's kind of how Daryl is also.
You're
Like,
right. It is quite similar.
mean,
Yeah, they were
he-
actually kind of similar in that regard,
Like,
weren't they?
I think he was like in his mid-40s
Yeah.
before he actually got his first big break, which was The Walking Dead.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
That's true.
So like after Daryl kills Merle, it like goes back to the prison and Daryl's back there, so I don't know how much time has passed.
Right.
But Rick's having a talk with everyone, and he kind of goes back at the end of season 2 when he was like, "This
He's
is
like,
not a
listen up, you
democracy.
sons of bitches. I'm sick of your
This
bullshit.
is not a democracy.
Yeah.
I'm in charge." And
Uh-huh.
honestly, as soon as they found the prison, that
He
stopped
started
being-
wavering on
yeah,
that. Yeah.
like when they were thinking of like what to do with the prisoners, like like T-Dog and Carol were giving input. Like, that's no longer a dictatorship, but he officially says like, "I'm not your governor. I'm not making
Not
the
your
rule.
governor.
Right. I'm not choosing for everyone."
Yeah.
And decides that it's a democracy again, which doesn't last that long, honestly.
Right. No, it's like,
He just goes back
yeah,
and forth.
he just can't really commit to any of these like forms of government that he wants to implement, or and just basically his governing ideology. Rick just can't stay consistent with
consistently
it.
changing.
He just flip-flops and goes back and forth on pretty much everything. He in terms of like what he's telling everybody else to do and how he wants to lead. Yeah.
And then one last interesting fact from the wiki page was that there was a version of the episode where Milton and Andrea,
Yeah.
they tried to kill the governor by putting a bomb in his apartment.
Yeah.
And-
Sounds like that would have been, I mean, because it's like, well, but they wouldn't have succeeded.
Right.
I doubt they would have, like, I doubt something would have happened where, like, his apartment blows up without him in it. So that sounds like it would have just been kind of like a waste of time.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I guess he just,
I mean,
just doesn't work.
the only thing I can think of that is that it starts to show like Andrea and Milton like which
trying
which,
something, like trying to, like,
well, like I
put
was
an
gonna
end
say
to
like
it,
teaming
or...
up and
oh,
like
okay, sure.
trusting each other more, which we kind of already saw when Milton showed Andrea like the torture
chamber?
yeah,
Yeah,
that the governor was making.
Yeah.
And like Milton like helped her get out to like go warn the others, and even though like the governor told him to do that also. But I mean, it would have shown that they were trusting each other and they were building this bond and wanting to kill the governor and save Woodbury together.
Yeah.
But it also seems like a lot of wasted time.
It does, yeah. And it's claimed on the wiki page that the showrunner just said, like, oh, this doesn't feel like The Walking Dead.
It kind of
Like
doesn't.
the plot.
Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, it would have been kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I think it was a good idea not to do that, just because it wouldn't really have fit, or like wouldn't have accomplished anything other than just like some character development,
Right.
which would have been fine. But...
Which I really do like this episode. Like,
oh, this is a great episode.
It's
yeah.
well made. There's a good story. There's a couple, like we said, like a couple things that like he should have been able to defeat the governor. But I think it's really cool that they gave input, and it has a very powerful, dramatic ending. I mean, I get Rick's thing, but I think it should have ended when Daryl killed Merle.
Oh, that would have been a very dramatic end.
That would have been a very dramatic ending to that episode.
I could have seen that, yeah, like, and then the next episode begins with Rick, like, making his speech, you know, something along those lines. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's episode 15.